So, I was stuck. And it's actually not very easy to describe what being stuck feels like. It's very strange to find a definition. The best definition that I've ever heard comes from an old Paul Simon interview. So they asked him a question about being stuck. He thought for a second and he said, well, the great Paul said, well, everywhere I went led me to where I didn't want to be. Bingo, that's exactly it right there. That's what it feels like, being stuck. That's how I felt like. It was winter in Chicago. The locals told me that I should relax because this winter is pretty mild. It's only minus 17 degrees. So this is a mild winter in Chicago, as you can see. I was a Fulbright visiting scholar at the magnificent University of Chicago campus. This is what the main campus ground looked like. And I was filled with energy and optimism. I was thinking, if this is the campus, then surely the apartment where I would stay would look like that. So when I was signing the lease, the rental agreement, the landlady told me that I was going to live in a garden unit. And I was pretty pumped up, you know, a garden unit, surely now it's going to look like this. And then I moved in, and I saw what a garden unit actually meant. A garden unit, it's a basement, folks. It's a basement with windows that if you look carefully, you're allowed to see the tires of parked cars. Not the whole car, just the tires of a parked car. So I was pretty stuck, all right. And you know, call me old-fashioned, but I didn't come to America to be looking at tires of parked cars, right? I wanted to feel both crushed and inspired by this mighty giant, this behemoth of a town called Chicago, the city of the big shoulders, as a great poet once called it. I wanted to have long walks. I wanted to feel the air from the Great Lake, see all the sights, historical places, even dangerous places, everything. And instead I was looking at parked cars in my garden unit for the first 2 months. But that's not the worst part. I mean, this is not a long-term issue, right? Spring's just around the corner. Weather will get better eventually. So I will still be able to look around, explore as much as I want. Once it gets better, it gets warmer. So my strategy was, I'll just buy a cheap guitar, the cheapest possible guitar from Amazon. And what happened to the slides there? And okay, and I'll just play until it gets warmer. So that filled me with optimism. Here's what I look like, filled with optimism. So this is what I felt like every day. But again, that's not the worst part. The worst part is that I was stuck creatively. And it was particularly bad timing because I had a book to write. And nothing was coming out. And it was not the typical case of writer's block, because most of the manuscript was already written. It was supposed to be a book of essays on varying themes and subjects, but it looked like a hot mess. It was all very eclectic. There was nothing holding it together. I had no idea what I actually want to say with the book. Why are all these different texts squeezed together between the covers of a book? Why does such a book need to exist at all? I had no point. A good editor might say I needed an arc. And I remember a few months back I was actually in Berlin at a writer's residency trying to write that very same book. As you can see, I was not in a garden unit. I had a much better view. I was looking at a beautiful lakefront, not tires of parked cars. I had all the time in the world, perfect conditions, and I didn't write a single line there as well. Just nothing. And being creatively stuck makes you feel hopelessly stupid 24/7. So that's how I felt in Chicago as well for the first 2 months. I tried to use the vast resources that University of Chicago offered me. So I stayed at the library. I stayed all day, then I stayed all night. Nothing. So then one day, this one day always comes in stories. I wish it would come more often in life. one day, I should say something happened, but nothing really happened. I just remembered that I had an old folder on my iPad, a folder of ridiculous true stories that I kept collecting through the years. It's even called that. So those were very far from literature. They had nothing to do with literature. It's just dumb stuff that for some reason, I read and they made an impression on me, so I kept them. And I reread one of those stories, and suddenly it hit me that I had to come all the way to America to fully appreciate this story, because it was both very American in its essence, but it was also, in a weird, perverted way, it was very Bulgarian. This story is especially dumb, so I can't wait to share it with you. Because it's dumb in a very, very profound way. His name is, I think to this day, I haven't checked, but his name is in the Guinness Book of World Records. And I think that nobody has broken his record yet. I certainly hope that nobody tries to break it, ever. Because Roy Sullivan from Greene County, Virginia, is the world record holder for the most lightning strikes survived. He got hit by lightning 7 times over the course of 35 years. So lightning hit him while he was on the job patrolling, while he was out fishing on a boat in a lake, even in his own backyard over the course of 35 years. This is a park. The first strike occurred in 1942. He was out patrolling, doing his job. Suddenly, the weather turned bad. He heard a rumble. He saw a light. The light saw him. And the light was very quick. Hit him in the leg and put a hole in his shoe, burned off one of his toenails. Historical sources don't specify on which toe. But I mean, a burned toenail doesn't sound like much, right? It's nothing special, I would agree, but this is a mistake we all make. We always assume that the impressive things, the impressive stuff, must come out of the sky. No. In Roy's case, in his whole story, the most impressive things always came from his own choices, the decisions that he made. And what impresses me the most about this guy is that he never changed his job. Not once. After the second strike, third strike, let's say, not once did he ever say to himself, maybe I should reconsider, I should maybe try some indoor type of work, like being a librarian or a cashier, something nice indoors. No, he just kept taking walks in the park. Sometimes freedom is exactly that, not learning your lesson, even if it comes to you out of the blue, literally. But everything happens for the second time. So, second lightning bolt hit him 1969, I believe, and it singed his eyebrow. So therefore, this must have been the last time that Roy saw a lightning in the sky and raised his eyebrows in surprise. This time it was different. It was not shock. I mean, we've all been shocked before, right? We know what shock is. This was not shock because the pain was brutal, but it was already familiar, right? He knew the pain. So there must have been some kind of, what, again? Kind of moment, which is a bewilderment. It's wondering. We all know philosophy began with wonder, right? But this is a different kind of wonder, because a philosopher wonders about being itself. He wonders about the event, the phenomenon. And our guy wonders about the repetition of the phenomenon. So that he's more amazed at the rhythm of it. So that makes him more of a poet than a philosopher. This guy, Thales from Miletus, he's considered the first ancient Greek philosopher. There's an old story about him, an old tale, that one night he was walking alone, taking a walk, just like our guy Roy. He was amazed at the night sky. He was wondering, because he's a philosopher, right? So he was wondering, and then he fell into a well. And a Thracian woman nearby made fun of him. She didn't help him. She made fun of him which goes to show that every time we embarrass ourselves, there is always a woman from our neck of the woods standing nearby, ready to make fun of us. But if Thales fell into the well 7 times, he would have become another poet, another first philosopher. Roy Sullivan never did philosophy, never wrote a poem in his life, never predicted a solar eclipse like Thales. He couldn't predict the weather in the park. But still, his story is much more interesting to me. It's fascinating to me. Was he lucky? Was he unlucky? Where does one start? Where does the other one end? I mean, maybe it's the same thing. So the third strike happened in his own backyard as he was setting up the barbecue. At this very moment, apparently, Mother Nature was also setting up the barbecue. So I think by the third time you realize that what is happening to you is fate. And as everyone who understands their fate does, your first order of business is to start feeling sorry for yourself, to start lamenting your fate. You're asking, why me? Not why this is happening, but why is this happening to me? But fate loves repetition. I think Borges said it. Roy Sullivan tried to say another thing upon the fourth strike. He probably tried to say, hey, look, a storm cloud. And then he was cut off because another bolt hit him. So this was the fourth time. I think it was 1972 or something. So what next? Singed eyelashes, burned hair, messed up hearing, one of his ears completely screwed up, right? All of this is very bad, but it's not yet insulting. The insult, I would venture to guess, probably comes after the fifth strike, when even your closest friends, your best pals, your best friends, they start avoiding you. Right, you can imagine, he probably said to the guys at some point, hey fellas, what do you say we go grab a drink or something? And the guys go, Roy, did you see the forecast, man? Why didn't you stay in? But he didn't stay in, he kept taking his walks. I mean, a guy wants to take a stroll, right? Stretch a little. See the world, feel vertical to the world. You want to feel vertical as a human being. You want to feel right. And in Bulgarian, I think it's no coincidence that we have the same word for being right and being upright. It's prav. So it's really important to feel prav, right? The sixth strike. This time, if you can imagine, he went camping. Probably with some new friends. So he went outside of his tent, and then he saw the cloud. The cloud saw him. And then a chase ensued, but I wouldn't call it a chase, I would call it a beautiful example of teamwork. So together with the cloud, they broke another record. This was the sixth strike, hit him in the ankle. Now we come to the subject of records. There are two types of records, intentional ones and unintentional ones. We all know the story of the intentional record because it's the same story over and over again, right? It's a story of ambition, talent, blood, sweat, and tears, and finally, achievement. So that's all fine and dandy. But I don't care about it that much. What I care about more is those unintentional, accidental records because they tell us a very different story. They tell us a story of destiny and fate. So what is fate? I would say that fate is probably the poetry of inevitable chance, of inevitable accident. So these stories are much more appealing to me because they don't tell you what can you do, they tell you how much of life can you bear. They're a story of resilience, of endurance. So this is where the Bulgarian part comes in. I mean, our national history is full of those examples of why me, why us, why does this keep happening? Another few hundred years of some foreign rule under such and such empire and stuff, and we keep overcoming. It's a history of constant existing in spite of. In spite of foreign rule, unfortunately sometimes in spite of our own rule. But it's much more inspiring to me, and I find much more reason to be proud with such a history than these grand narratives of conquest, for example. Because in our history there is much more blues, and inherently the blues is much cooler than the march, right? I would always prefer the blues to the march. Thank you. Wait a minute. I almost forgot. The seventh time. So the seventh time it was, I think, 1977 or something, let's say it was. Roy Sullivan went fishing. 7th lightning bolt hit him really bad this time. He was severely burned, abdomen, chest area, was taken to the hospital, and he didn't die. Our hero didn't die of a lightning strike at all. He died as an older man. One night, he couldn't sleep, so he went through his nightstand, pulled out a gun, and he shot himself. That's how he died, after surviving 7 strikes. The police say he died of unrequited love. I don't know if there's a moral to the story, I don't condone what he did, but he died of love. Those are the facts. He kept taking his walks, he never gave up on his walks, and finally he died on his own terms out of love. I don't know if there's a lesson, but this became the whole point of my book. He never gave up on his walks, on his job. He did his job, no matter the weather. The trick is to keep it moving. So the book turned out pretty good. A lot of people showed up to the premiere, but that's not important. The important stuff is to keep moving. I knew it from my philosophy education, Thales. I knew it from my poetry days, the rhythm of it. I knew it from my chess days, out hustling hustlers in the park. I knew it from my boxing days, when the coaches would always scream into your ear to not stay still, don't take a picture, keep it moving. But ultimately, I learned it from Ranger Roy. You just do what you love, never give up on your walks, because remaining stuck is ultimately a choice you make. So forget about the forecast, let's go for a walk. Thank you.